Toyota is gunning for a piece of Subaru's pie with the all-new 2022 Corolla Cross. Can it compete when the going gets tough? We challenge its all-wheel drive system on snow and dirt to find out. That's coming up right now on Driving Sports TV.
Just last year, we tested the LE model of the new Corolla Cross. That is a mid-level trim. This one is the fully loaded XLE. Price as you see it here, over $32,000, which is a lot of money for a small crossover. So let's see, what is the difference here? Like, what is the point of the XLE? You have the same powertrain as before, including a 4-cylinder engine up front. You also have a CVT transmission with a proper first gear, so that helps with starts. It also has Toyota's all-wheel drive system, which we are going to test thoroughly in this video. The seats are covered in synthetic leather and they are fully adjustable with electronic controls. I also get 2 stages of heat on both passenger and driver sides. We also have an 8-inch infotainment system, and instead of a traditional gauge cluster, we get a digital display. It's kind of nice, actually. I have lots of information at my disposal, including the status of the all-wheel drive system. We have economy, lane keep assist, adaptive cruise control, individual tire pressures, which I like because sometimes in vehicles of this category, they just give you the passive sensors where it just tells you if you have enough or not enough air. This one will tell you exactly how much air is in each tire. We also have an audio display, the active safety stuff, and then economy. Now let's talk briefly about active safety because this XLE does have a lot of stuff. We have lane keep assist, we have pre-collision, blind spot monitoring, parking sonars, rear cross traffic alerts. The collision system will also detect pedestrians and bicycles. On the left is a tach, on the right are some traditional fuel and temperature gauges. Overall, this is a really nice little setup. Down here we got lots of piano black, not a fan of that. It also comes with a charging pad for mobile devices that are compatible, but it does not have wireless Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. It only uses the wired setup. And because this is an XLE, I get dual zone climate control. You don't get that on the lower trims. Since we've already done a complete review of the Corolla Cross, today is all about testing the all-wheel drive system. Now it is January, and you might think, oh, it's January, snow should be easy to find. Not really in the Pacific Northwest. See, a couple weeks ago, we had about 5 feet of snow dump in the mountains. And then it started to all thaw. So that means that the roads are actually bare and wet. And all of our forest roads are covered in 3 to 5 feet of snow still. So it's really difficult to find something where we can test this system. But we're going to drive and drive and drive until we can find something worth testing. Just to recap a couple items about this Corolla Cross, it is powered by a 4-cylinder 2-liter engine making 169 horsepower. It is connected through a CVT and it powers all 4 wheels using Toyota's dynamic torque control all-wheel drive system. I think it's fair to say that that is the most common all-wheel drive system they offer. They're smaller SUVs and sedans. It's the same one that you would find in the Camry and the RAV4. Of course, each application is programmed differently and they all have different features, such as the RAV4 has a trail mode. This one does not. When I tested this vehicle last year in Austin, Texas, we had the mid-range trim. This one is the fully decked out XLE, and it's pretty nice. I mean, I will admit I like the digital gauge cluster. The seats are actually quite comfortable, even though the materials really aren't the best. I mean, they look like your old school vinyl. Seating position's good, visibility is good. It's a fine car. I mean, it's just fine. There's nothing really spectacular about it. But if you're looking for basic transportation with all-wheel drive, and in this format of a small crossover, this is a good option. The suspension tuning on this is actually pretty nice. It soaks up bumps nicely and has a smooth feel to it. It's got a little bit of roll in the chassis, but you kind of expect that for a crossover. Then there's, of course, the complete and utter lack of power. Yeah, this thing is an 11-second 0 to 60 car. It is one of the slowest crossovers we've ever tested. And, I don't really know if that's going to be a problem for the target buyer. I mean, I can see people buying entry-level versions of this with the all-wheel drive option for their kids. Because, yeah, I mean, it has everything you need, and you know it will run forever. Now, if you're older and you want something a little nicer and you can afford it, I probably wouldn't spend my money here. I just think that even in this XLE trim, it's just not good enough for the money. Once you're talking lower to mid 30s, that opens up the doors to a lot of really posh options. However, you could say that this is most directly competitive against the Subaru Crosstrek, a vehicle that I actually own. And the Crosstrek is faster, it handles better, I think the interior is nicer, and it's cheaper when compared against this XLE. So I would have a really hard time picking this one over the Subaru. When I was back in Texas, I promised that I would eventually do a proper off-road test at our private test facility. Minor problem with that, this vehicle just became available this week. It's middle of January, and we just had a massive, record-breaking amount of snow drop on the property. That means our test hill is currently covered with an impassable 5 feet of snow. That's not breaking a plow out, that's breaking heavy machinery out and working for a week to clear it, just to get to the property. So where I am right now is just off of Highway 2, kind of near Gold Bar. Yeah, that's actually the name of the town. And even though they did get a dump of snow here, it wasn't as bad as over on our test property, so a lot of it has melted off because it was really cold, and then it really wasn't quite as cold shortly thereafter. But I'm here because there is a tiny, tiny off-road park that I'm going to use to test out this Corolla Cross. And here it is. So the Corolla Cross is not really designed for extreme off-roading, clearly. But what I'm going to do today is really push it to see what is the limit, so that when you buy one, or if you're considering buying one, you know what you can and cannot do with it. Of course, we are on all-season radials, and we only have 8.1 inches of ground clearance and no underbody protection of any significance. So I have to be extra careful today. Let's start with something simple, a little hill that has a little bit of undulation in it. Now, the system in this uses a transfer clutch to shift power from the front to the back. It does it as it sees fit, and then it will use wheel braking to stop spinning wheels from bleeding that power out and push it back into the system. This does not have a trail mode, so I'm really curious how aggressive it's going to be in reusing that power in the system. I have a little gauge up here so I can see how much power is getting shifted front to back. And I'm just going to ease in, and already it's showing me about a 50-50 power split because it's detecting the angle, and I am approaching at a very slow speed. So we're going to get a bunch of wheel spin. And is it going to apply the brakes? Oh. Getting us up and over. How's our brake over? How's our brake over? Ooh, no rubbing. We're good. And it does it. Now that is probably about as extreme as you will get on any trailhead. But I want to see just how good this system is. So let's try something even harder. And that means basically something bigger. This particular location was actually the site of my very first off-road shoot. It was a 2009 Nissan Frontier pickup. and I filmed it right over there. At the time, this little off-roady bit was part of a much larger off-road vehicle park. They've since rebuilt the park up the road, but it's way harder now than it used to be, which kind of makes it a challenge for little vehicles like this. But they kept this little part open. Let's try going down it now. Yee. Try that brake over. Now this has a small wheelbase, which is good. How we looking here? And we just fall away. Hopefully our nose doesn't push in. Oh, just keep it steady. And there we go. Okay, on to something harder. Now for something truly absurd. What this has is ditches, and they are spread around in a way that I'm going to completely remove traction off of the driver's side front wheel and the passenger rear wheel. That means that essentially it has to get enough torque to the rear driver's side wheel to be able to get up the climb, because that is the only wheel that's going to have any significant grip. Can it do it? It's the ultimate test. So I'm in drive. There's nothing else I can really do. And let's not try to break it. So I'm going to go real slow because I'm very concerned about my breakover, more so than my approach angle here. I'm going to see, kicking up rocks. Can I do it? No, that's a lot of churning. Let's try this again. Can we do it? Now I have to be very controlled here. I don't want to just charge it, because that's when you start to break things. So traction control, shifting that power around. Now if you're saying, why don't you just turn off all the traction control? Well, that's beside the point, because if I do, then there's no individual wheel braking anymore. And then it can't shift power around. All the power will bleed out of the wheel. Come on, can you do it? No, this is too much. Yeah, I could charge it, and then if I charge it, I would also possibly smash the underside. This vehicle has 228 miles on it, and let's not destroy it. So, any vehicle can do any course once. The question is, can you do it unscathed? And I think this is the limit for this one before it starts to see damage. This is a 2021 Subaru Crosstrek Sport. I actually own this one. My wife uses it as a daily driver, and she loves this car. But it's also the direct competitor to the Corolla Cross. So right now we're going to see if this little vehicle can beat the obstacle that completely befuddled the Corolla Cross. Here is the climb where the Corolla Cross failed. A couple notes about this Crosstrek Sport. It does have Falcon Wild Peak trail tires. They're a very modest all-terrain tire with an aggressive looking sidewall. But with the Corolla Cross, it really wasn't about traction. It just couldn't get enough power to a single wheel. If it was a traction issue, we would have seen more spinning with the one rear wheel that was trying to push it up. Instead, it didn't even move. I think it's safe to say that this is not really a tire issue. So let's go ahead and give it a try. This has a CVT like the Corolla Cross, although it has no first gear cog like the Corolla Cross. Even though this does have dual X mode, snow, dirt, and deep snow mud, I am not going to enable that. I'm going to keep that off for right now because those systems provide additional wheel spin, which is not something that we want right now. Let's give it a try. Did I mention this car is my wife's? I'm not sure which is worse. Car manufacturers upset with me or my wife? So we're already going to start to see some slip as traction is pulled off the wheels. We're slowly going up. Now I have to be really careful with going up. I don't want to charge it because I don't want to crush my nose. I don't want to hear any loud clanks. I should have actually probably kept a little more momentum there. I'm at full throttle. Oh, I released when I shouldn't have. You know, it's easy. Boom, there we go. And that's how you do it. So clearly for off-road conditions, the Subaru Crosstrek Sport is the better choice. For our next test with the Corolla Cross, I'm going to go up into the snow, but I'm not going to take the Subaru with me simply because it has snow and ice rated tires. The Corolla Cross does not, which would give it too much of an advantage. So let's pick up this review with the Toyota. Well, that was fun, but I think it's time to press on up the mountains and try to find some snow. Here we have some snow. Let's see how it does. Now keep in mind, these are all seasons. Now I'm seeing a lot of power go to the back. We're on a very slight incline. Let's stop. And now let's see how it responds. I'm just gonna floor it. Pretty good. Now that we've seen that it can actually push power to the back, let's see if we can have a little fun with it. I'm going to turn off traction control. There, now let's see how it does. Because this is actually where you want the wheels to spin when you're in the deep snow and not yet stuck. Oof. Hey, I think we got, spin those wheels. Now that'd be interesting to see on the outside, how is this power getting shifted? Drive, crown a little bit, reverse, floor it, and forward. I'd like to point out there's no overheating yet. Okay, well, let's see what we got going on outside. Okay, don't appear to be high-centered, just in a tricky situation. So I'm going to try to drive out of this. If this doesn't work, I do have traction boards. Let's see, wheel straight, drive. I'm going to go ahead and put traction control back on, and we'll see if the wheel braking can get us out of this. Crown up a little bit forward, and then floor it in reverse. So on the outside, you should be able to see what this system is doing. See if I can kind of steer my way out. Oh yeah, rotate. Okay, let's drive forward just a little bit. I don't want to go into deeper stuff. I just want to get up on that crown. Floor it backwards. Nope. Forward, brake, reverse, floor it. Yes, oh. Floor it. I don't want to get in the deeper stuff. Come on. Actually, I guess I'm just going to floor it forward and see what we got. Oh, it's cutting power. It's really cutting power a lot. Crown, crown, crown. I still have traction on. Oops, sliding sideways. Okay, well, that's not where I want to go. Let's turn traction off. We'll try this here. Oh, yeah. Now we're in a better position. And away we go, happily ever after. So the system actually is good enough to avoid getting stuck, and if you do get stuck, it has what it takes to get out of that situation. Keeping in mind, we are on all season radials. These are not designed for snow. I mean, yeah, they have an M+S rating, but that really doesn't mean anything. You can see the situation here. These icy berms, these are very deep. And the wheel basically was just whoop, 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 whoop. Today we were able to see how this Corolla Cross deals with tricky situations both on dirt and in snow. And it was able to achieve, I think, above expectations. I didn't expect very much because it has no trail mode, it has all season radials. This is basically the 2022 version of a commuter wagon. But it was able to conquer at least a small dirt incline. The bigger one was a little tricky. but that would have actually tripped up a lot of vehicles, completely taking traction off of two wheels and then basically using one wheel to push the car up. That is asking a lot, especially of a vehicle with only 169 horsepower. And then in the snow situation, not only were we able to get stuck, we were able to get unstuck without having to use any traction devices, which I think is actually pretty good. It was putting power to both the front and to the back. It never overheated. It never shut down. It never did anything weird. And that's one thing I like about Toyotas. Typically, they don't do anything unexpected and weird. They're pretty reliable in terms of what you expect and what you get. So who is this car for? I think that if you're looking to buy a brand new car for a younger member of the family, I think that this would be a great choice in a lower level trim. I'm not so sure of this XLE though. I think that once you're spending over 30 grand, it kind of opens the doors to other more interesting vehicles. But if you want something that's reliable, nicely equipped, has a great digital gauge cluster and all the stuff that you want in the infotainment, can't really go wrong with this car other than spending more than what you really need to get a vehicle of this class. Clearly, Hyundai, Kia, their offerings in this space I think are a little bit more competitive. I also think that Subaru has a better all-wheel drive system, but Toyota buyers are going to buy Toyota products, and it's nice that they finally have an option like this here in North America. For Driving Sports TV, I'm Ryan Douthit. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, share our videos. We make them for you, and we hope you enjoy them.